Hello,
What's
hello.
going on?
Not much.
What's happening, y'all?
Not much. Oh, just another week in college football, another week on the tailgate.
Another tailgate. So yeah,
That's right.
today we're going to recap our games of the week from last week. We'll talk about the games of the week next week. We'll probably get off on a few rabbit holes. So we're gonna go into the intro. Go grab your drink and make sure you're commenting while we're doing this whole thing.
That's right. All right. So, how's everybody doing?
Busy.
It's busy.
I would agree with that.
Just trying to get enough people, just enough time to go and watch some games over the weekend.
Mhm.
We saw some teams win that we wanted to win and see win, and then teams lose that we wanted to see win.
Yes, they win. Yeah, that's like the most confusing way to say that, and it shouldn't be.
It is. Yeah, I mean, we want to go ahead and just hop right in and just talk about, just kind of recap a little bit of week 4, which was a pretty fun week of
It was a good
football.
week.
Yeah. Surprisingly good week of football. So, Dennis, you want to start with yours? I think yours had the desired outcome, plus on top of that, it was
Right.
It was kind of a slugfest now, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
At first, it wasn't. It was Utah's game, basically. And honestly, it was exactly how I wanted to end, but there was one part missing. I mean, I feel like it's kind of expected now. Cam Rising did not play.
Yeah.
Like, I really wanted him to play versus Alex Bowman. Be like, hey, I had the two oldest quarterbacks basically go neck and neck. He had a hand injury, so wonder if he's going to be out for the whole year. But Utah won. Hey, 22-19.
Yeah, this is very familiar.
Yep. At this point,
he's week to week. He's week to week, and every week you're like, he's coming back. Nope.
Well, exactly. I think at this point he's missed more games than he's played in. At this, I don't know.
I would agree with that. I feel like last year we didn't know that he was gonna be out the entire year until literally to the end of the year. Like, yeah, you know what? He's gonna be out for the rest of the year. I'm like, yeah, there's 2 more games left. Like, obviously, it doesn't matter no more.
Yeah, well, they weren't really talking about what his injury was. Now, I have heard that he was practicing before the game at Oklahoma State, and so I think they probably were just like, you know what? I think just to give you an additional week of healing, because I get it. Like, he is so injury prone.
Mm-hmm.
You just want him to be as close to 100% as possible before you have to play potentially a really good offense in Arizona this upcoming week. So
you've got a hangnail. That's a 4-weeker.
Yeah,
4-weeker for that. And let's be sure you're all right.
Minimum.
Sorry, Dennis.
I completely agree. Though it's just one of those things where, like, I don't know why they kept him out. Like, some of the articles, everything I've been seeing, like the news on him, like when we last spoke on this last week. They're saying like, oh, he's going to play. Like, it wasn't necessarily a game time decision. And as the week kind of went from like, he's playing to a game time decision, I'm like, what did he do? Did he try to cut an avocado or something like that in that time? Like, what the heck? And
not an orange, not an apple. And
it's a common injury from what I've been told by different friends. I'm like, oh, I never had that experience, but okay. But no, I mean, Utah's defense obviously kind of came through for them. I think that's a surprise to nobody. They were able to stop. Honestly, I'm surprised that he's been basically, tamed this entire season, especially for this game. But Ollie Gordon, 11 carries, he only had 42 yards. So he was completely shut down, and that's to rely on Alex Bowman. And funny enough, throughout the game, they actually benched him, be like, you know what? You're not doing anything for us either. Let's go ahead and put in our backup. The backup I think did just as bad. Let me see his final stat. I think he was 3 for 11.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 3 for 11 for about 30 yards. And so he wasn't doing any better. They brought Bowman back in, and they tried to make a run at the end, but I feel like, Utah was able to kind of keep it together and still at the lead at the end of the day. But
Sure.
You know, Ollie. Go for it.
What was that?
No, I was just saying, Ollie Gordon is one of the most surprising players to me this year. I expected him, honestly, to just kind of show out this year. And
Sure.
again, to bring it back up to Ashton Genty, I thought he was going to be more like that, kind of that
I
guy
was expecting that too.
they can rely on him. He's getting 150 every game. You know, they can ride him, let the quarterback just kind of do what he needs to do. But he's gotten shut down.
Like I was expecting it to be basically like he came back. He's like, hey, this year I'm gonna win the Heisman. So I was expecting like what he did last year to just be amplified. He's like, I should have been a contender. I should have been like one of the finalists. Like now I'm gonna make it my award. But the fact that he's been shut down the past couple of weeks, I'm like, is he just a shell of himself, or like does everybody know how to prepare for now, or does Oklahoma State just really doesn't know how to use him anymore? They ran out of ideas.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll see. He'll have a lot more opportunities, and I think that hopefully he can get on the right track. But need to see him step up.
I mean, Oklahoma State is definitely going to be able to need that because their passing game is definitely not their strong suit.
No.
Yeah, I mean, right now their offense in general just kind of looks really anemic. Looks like another team in Oklahoma. They
also have to use their backup.
Not that game just yet, because Luke, your game, I'm pretty sure came next, which was a good. Which I know it wasn't what you wanted. It wasn't the outcome you wanted. But walk us through that game. Walk us through
to walk us through my pain. I would say the pain, there's not a whole lot of pain. It is what it is. We talked back on the USC LSU game. We talked about how we didn't really know kind of what that game was. We couldn't tell a whole lot about those teams based on that game. And I think that this game, while USC still lost, I think it does tell us more about Michigan than it does about USC.
Sure.
Michigan, as everybody has said, as we've said from the beginning, run game, defense.
Yep.
That's it. I'm pretty sure that Alex Orji was like 7 of 11 for 33 yards
or something like
for
nothing.
14 or something for 32 yards. I cannot remember the last time we saw 32 yards passing in a game for a game. When Kentucky played a few weeks back. But I mean, they had like almost 300 yards of rushing. They had a pick 6 on a horrible pass by Miller Moss. He telegraphed that sucker so bad. And you've got, I always forget, I'm pretty sure it's Will Johnson who's sitting back there, and he's a ball hawk. And that's realistically, in my opinion, about all he is. He can cover pretty well. But USC needed to do more. USC, the defense, while it's looking better, I think they did get exposed, and the defense is still struggling, especially that front 7. I mean, allowing 290 yards rushing. This was a lot like that Penn State game last year. You knew they were running. You knew that's all they were going to do, and you needed to key up to stop that run, and they didn't. And it ended up biting them in the tail at the end of the game. And that's all it is. This was one of those games that you watched it and you're just watching them run and you're going, this is exactly what we thought. How do we know this? And USC's defensive coordinator doesn't know this. How are you not stopping it?
Sure. So, well, I think that the other thing is too, is like, their defensive coordinator, obviously, I mean, he knows what he's doing. He did a great job at UCLA, as Dennis has mentioned many times before. But the biggest thing, and I think I've heard other commentators say this, is like you've got to be able to like actually build that position. It's something that because it's such a physical part of the team, you have to be able to be deep, like Georgia, like Texas, like Tennessee, like Michigan, like Ohio State. If you're not deep, you're just going to fall off eventually. You're going to get winded guys. And while they had some decent talent on that on the 7, those guys, those starters can't play the entire game. That's just that's just not how it's going to work. And not in a perfect world, that's how it would work, but that's just not how it works.
And I think going forward, this is going to be a rough year for you for USC.
Can be.
This,
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing: USC has a much easier road ahead than Michigan does. So it's very possible they may still end up in the Big Ten championship because they might only have one loss to a Big Ten team.
That's true.
But I thought Michigan played surprisingly well for the fact that they were literally one type of offense only. The easiest read offense in the world is just running. You don't even have to worry about an air attack. So you could literally stack the box and it wouldn't matter because Orji just can't throw the ball.
Honestly, they should be just straight up like triple option. Just bring it back to that old just grinding game, and they had the alignment on both sides of offense and defense to be able to do that and be able to sustain it. So,
well, I still keep hearing this dual threat, and I'm like, listen, guys. Handing the ball off and running is not dual threat. You can't be a dual threat if you can't pass the ball.
Handing the ball off is basically like a sideways pass, just literally less than a foot.
It's like every single time he tosses the ball out of his hand. So it's kind of a pass.
It's like a pass.
I was expecting to see more like, honestly, little like quick like shovel passes that I'm surprised they didn't do.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was expecting more than anything to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, considering how physical, I was just going to say how physical they are, I was surprised they didn't do more like bubble screens or things like that. It's just, it's weird, but they found success in the run game anyway, so they didn't need it.
It worked. What they did worked. So, you just kind of live and you learn, you live and you move on. But I think that, I guess for me, I look at that and we all say, this is what they are.
Sure.
They're going to play defense and they're going to run. And now it's 100%. We know that's what they're going to do. There is no passing game. So everybody moving forward, if there was any concern, because, I'll be honest, like I was in the mindset of like Alex Orji. Okay, we've not seen anything good from you. There was this little thing in the back of my head going, maybe he's going to come out here and he's going to drop 300 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Sure.
Maybe he just kind of, it all clicks. And watching that game, you just go, nope.
Yep.
No, I mean, it doesn't.
Yeah. Well, like if you think back to last year, Jalen Milroe did not look good through the first 4 games and finally showed up. But it was just like, it was such a weird coming of age party for him. But yeah, you just don't see that. You don't see that potential that Jalen Milroe had last year. You don't see that.
You don't. Like you could just see the way they're throwing too. Milroe seems a lot more confident last year when he was throwing. Like it was more of a rarity when we did see it, but whenever he threw it, it seemed like he had confidence all in the world behind his talent, his arm. With Orji, you could see like there's some hesitation, there's some skeptics.
Yep.
And I we were texting where I'm like, like his feet, he's like it's like he's throwing before he even sets his feet almost regular every single time. And it was bothering me so much. I kept texting you guys that, and I'm like, why is he not setting his feet? Yep. Why is he not doing this? But even to that, like you were saying just a second ago, Luke, honestly, I was disappointed with Miller Moss's play. He always came back to do a big play after that, like after a turnover he made or a mistake he made. But I'm like, you could tell he just the hits that he was taking, the pressure that he was taking, just kind of overwhelmed him to a point. I love the fact that he was maybe able to be clutch in some points, but it became too much, I feel like.
Well, and I'd say to give a little bit of perspective, he dropped back about 51 different times throughout that game. I think PFF has said that he was pressured 24 of those times, which is pretty nuts.
No, don't get me wrong. That's like he was able to have some moments when he was able to come back and be clutch, like the last touchdown and everything. But it's just like you could see the times where he was still kind of frantic in some of those ways. Like if he was a little bit more seasoned of a player, I feel like as he grows, you could tell the fact that he's going to be able to make that up.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say is a more seasoned player is going to look a lot better in those situations. Yeah. Michigan's front seven was getting there often. And his mind, Moss, you could just see that his mind was working overtime, and he's just not there yet. Now he's young, and I have huge expectations for him, and I think he's going to do really, really well. He didn't this game, and I think this is going to be a big learning game for him.
But it definitely showed his potential of like, hey, you can't count him out. Like,
nope.
A lot of respect for that.
There's a lot of guys who, when you're getting, hit or rushed or whatever it is, you're getting pressured 24, more, almost half of your pressures. There's a lot of guys who are mentally just going to stop, and they're just they're just gonna kind of give up and go, okay, let's, this is what it is. And his mental toughness was very, very impressive, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, one QB that did not have great mental toughness was on a 1-0 Jackson Arnold of Oklahoma.
He looked pretty tough on the sidelines.
He did. He looked really tough.
That little mustache.
Yep. With that mustache. That was such an interesting game. In a lot of different ways. It was a different style of ball than I've ever seen Heupel play. Mm-hmm. He almost turned into Michigan the second half. Now, and again, it's just one of those things, like he had the score is very deceiving, just like Alabama versus USF earlier this year. The score at the end of the game is incredibly deceiving. And I have said before many, many times, I personally don't believe in trash time or garbage time. But in this game, it was very clear that Heupel, who usually doesn't really believe in garbage time either, decided to make that a part of his repertoire. And the reason being is there's multiple different reasons for it. The first and foremost, this is what we'll say. First and foremost, Oklahoma's defense, straight up elite. Like, we're not going to pull punches there. They're a phenomenal defense. I talked with multiple different Oklahoma fans before and after the game. After the game, they were confused. They're like, we have never seen the type of defense that we saw tonight. We have never seen the weird formations and the weird shifts. Like, that's not something that we normally see. And so clearly Venables really amped up and cooked up a really important game, like in a very special game plan for Heupel, which is understandable because Heupel probably did the same thing to some degree. The thing is, the other part of that is, so like you've got their defense is elite and is taking on an offense that has looked elite this year, but hasn't faced a defense like that. And so that offense slows way farther down than they normally do, which is what they did against NC State, because NC State they had a really weird formation, and with I think it was 3-3-5 is what they would run. And and they would intentionally not get set until after like the 15 seconds. And so Tennessee would wait to let them get set, and then they would just go back to their sideline signals to just, good thing that Connor Stallions wasn't there. But essentially
he couldn't do it in game time. He had to get it advanced.
Exactly. Yeah, he had to get it in advance. But the thing is, the other thing that we saw was Oklahoma, in preparation for this week, decided to just flood their field. I don't know if y'all saw this or not, but it was it's well documented. Even Oklahoma fans are admitting to it, that they drenched the field because they wanted to make it look lush and green, but they left the grass significantly higher than it's supposed to be. And it was like coming up in clumps, and giant, like muddy clumps. So it was very clear that Heupel realized, hey, especially after the Oklahoma defensive guy just destroyed his leg.
Oh my gosh.
He probably was like, you know what? I know that the field didn't necessarily play a role in that. I'm just not going to risk it. My guys are too valuable. I'm not going to risk Nico. Nico's been pressured a lot because the defense is really good. Yeah. So we're just going to go to some bully ball. And our, Tennessee's defense played lights out. There was tons and tons of turnovers, back and forth turnovers, which was the
in the
funniest thing
same
I've ever
15
seen.
seconds.
Yeah, which was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire football watching career. And it looks like Oklahoma came out of the game with a loss, but also found their starting quarterback, which is always a good win. The one thing, and Dennis, I don't know why you're muted, but oh, there you go.
He had to fart.
Yeah, that's what it was. Okay. But so Dennis, did you watch the entire game? I don't know if you watched the entire game or just watched highlights.
No, I was able to watch kind of towards like mostly just the fourth quarter of the game. So I wasn't able to watch the entire thing.
So Tennessee's defense up to the fourth quarter held Oklahoma's offense to 98 yards total.
Yeah.
And in 36 attempts of rushing, in 34 attempts of rushing, they ran for 36 yards, which is 1.1 yard per rush.
I didn't know the math. I'm glad he told me.
And it's pretty abysmal. But Oklahoma's defense on the other side did a phenomenal job at like 2.9 yards per rush or something like that against Tennessee, which is pretty good. But would you say, since you watched the most of the fourth quarter, would you say that Tennessee went into more of a prevent style defense towards the end there?
I think so. I wouldn't say a prevent, but it ran a lot of like a Tampa 2, where they just like, hey, nothing goes behind us, but keep everything in front of us type thing. Like kind of go do their thing, but hey, just don't let the big play happen. Don't let any scores happen. But I guess it wasn't to what I was expecting overall Tennessee's defense to be playing like.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like they didn't in the fourth quarter, they didn't look anything like they did in the first three.
Yeah.
And I've had so many Oklahoma fans that have told me, well, no, they blitzed in the fourth more than they ever did. And I'm like, okay, you have to remember that our front seven can cycle out 3 different times and is fresh. Your offensive line is not fresh. They were already getting beat in the first quarter. By the fourth quarter, a standard pressure will look like a blitz.
They were getting home rushing 3. Yeah. I'm sorry, rushing 4. Almost every play.
Mm-hmm. And Tennessee's defensive line, the front seven, as Michael has said plenty times before, if they're not the best. If they're not the best in college football, they're easily one of the top ones. So if they rush even a couple players, it's going to look like and feel like a blitz.
Sure.
So it doesn't even matter to that point.
Yeah. So, but again, all the storylines surrounding everything, it was a tough fought road victory for Tennessee. But after everything was said and done, as I said last week, I don't know if I said it on here or I just said it in the chat. But I predicted that the goalposts would shift because everybody's been saying that Tennessee has won against nobodies for the past.
Did they throw him in the lake again?
No, this wasn't Tennessee that moved the goalposts. It was Oklahoma fans, Ole Miss fans, Bama fans. Weirdly enough, like a lot of the commentators haven't. I've been surprised by that. So there's a lot of commentators that really haven't. And I think that's because they understand what it means to play at Oklahoma. Right. They understand. Like it's easy. It's like if we're talking like it's like even if you were to go into Bama pre-Saban and win there decisively, because that's what Tennessee did, that would still be an excellent road win. It's very hard to do. And so but from what I understand, as of today, which is Tuesday, September 24th, 2024, Tennessee does still need a quality win because that doesn't exist according to them. So I guess Bama, but then, something will happen and Bama won't be it. Or then Georgia, which leads us weirdly into our game of the week. That's so strange.
Before we get too far, one of the things the most fun that I had this weekend is, so I was at like a men's retreat this weekend. So all I did was watch football. And it was so much fun because I had all UT fans. It was like all UT fans. Well, not all. It was a good portion of UT fans. And we were watching that game. And at some point, because I did say that Tennessee was going to win, but at some point I decided they're all just being loud and they're all just being,
Sure.
I was going to say obnoxious. They're not being really obnoxious. They're doing what everybody does. You're like, oh, that's not a holding. Oh, he was grabbing him. And so I just started disagreeing with everything they all said the entire time. And it was so glorious and it was so much fun. And I pissed so many people off. And, I had to keep reminding them like, hey, no, I chose them to win. Even though I'm giving you hell right now. So it was a lot of fun. And then that injury.
Oh yeah. Bad.
Like, it's like it was like the toe was pointing the wrong way.
Yeah.
That was
yeah, exactly. No,
feel bad for that kid.
It's almost identical to what Brew McCoy dealt with last year in the South Carolina game. So I was just like, I was honestly surprised Brew McCoy didn't run over there and talk to the guy because
your pain.
He knows. So yeah, that was rough. That was so rough. It was so bad. And again, like I'll give props to Oklahoma's defense. They still played salty even after that. They played with a lot of heart. And it looks like they're going to be potentially set up for a better offense in the future.
And do you know that his injury was a dislocated ankle?
Oh man.
That's what Brent Venables confirmed it was a dislocated ankle. And I'll be honest, I thought it was worse than that.
Sure.
So not that that's not bad, but
no, but
I was thinking leg.
Yeah, what he means, he might not be truly out for the season. Honestly, his recovery time might be better. So,
we'll
He'll
see.
But
But
by the end of the season,
all out for what's his name, Dolby, Kendall Dolby. So thoughts and prayers to him.
Yep,
get better soon.
Exactly.
But yes, game of the weeks. Sorry,
game of the weeks for week 5. I actually make a prediction. Actually, no, I'm going to make an announcement before we get into game of the weeks.
He's done making predictions. This
is just an announcement. It's kind of like the Twitter guy where he talked about eating dog crap out of a bag. If he loses. Well, you know what? I will jump off a 5-story building if Tennessee loses this weekend.
Bye week.
It's a bye week. So I don't have to worry about that.
He's like, I was really stressing it.
So that was not a cry for help for anybody.
It was like, please don't.
Send a joke.
So I was gonna get a lot of calls after this.
Going into the game of the week, obviously we alluded to one of them already. But you want me to cover mine first because I think mine's a little not as it's
Yours
important.
Is the worst.
It's not the worst. It's important for the Big Ten, but it's not as big. It's not as big as either one of yours.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So I've got Illinois versus Penn State. That's my game of the week. I really like what Altmaier has been doing. I watched the Nebraska game. I saw what Nebraska fans saw at the end of the game. I get it. The refs clearly decided they were going to, again, you left the game in the refs' hands.
Right.
That's really what it boils down to. And Raiola made freshman mistakes, which is understandable. He's a freshman.
A true freshman.
Yep.
Yeah. But Altmaier looked good. He looked sharp. And I was like, is this like a guy that's like legitimately flying under the radar, not just for the Big Ten, but for all of college football, to be one of those game managers that is just incredibly well composed? Because that's what he felt like during that game against Nebraska. You've got Penn State, who of course is a favorite by according to ESPN's FPI analytics matchup. They've got it at 86.2%.
They heavy favorites then.
Yeah, they're heavy favorites. I'm gonna.
They are at home too. Penn State is home.
It is at home, so it does make sense.
And it's a night game, and Penn State is a hard road environment to play at night.
Yep. So and so it is a hard game. It's going to be a tough game. I'm just curious as to whether or not Penn State is going to have what they need offensively because their offense does look better than it did last year. But are they going to have what it takes offensively to take on a relatively stable defense in Illinois and arguably, I think, a better offense? They have to I think Illinois has a better offense than Penn State does.
Agreed.
And so I personally, making my pick, I'm picking Illinois for the upset. I know it's incredibly, incredibly tough to win at Penn State. Incredibly tough. Especially if they do. Do we know if they're doing whiteout? Are they doing whiteout tonight? Weekend?
Not tonight.
Well, not tonight. Thank you. That night.
He's like, if I had to guess, not tonight.
Right. If I had to guess, I'd put money on it. Second against November 9th against Washington is when they're doing it. So
okay. Well, I just know that is supposedly like their most like ominous like atmosphere that they build.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen
it is. That's
videos. It's intense.
Tough. Yeah.
It looks intense.
Yeah.
I think that Illinois not only covers this, I don't think the point spread is going to be 18 points, but I think it's probably going to be down to a touchdown, kind of like against Nebraska. They're going to keep it close. I think Penn State will kind of get a little bit more exposed because Bowling Green nearly exposed them a couple weeks ago. So that's what I think is going to happen for this game.
What's the spread on that one?
Negative 17.5.
17.5. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a big difference.
I would definitely take Illinois to cover that.
Yeah. I mean, at minimum,
crazy.
At minimum, cover it. Yeah. I think if anything, again, they're going to probably win by 7 points or maybe even 3. Just a score. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be anything drastic, but that's my pick for game of the week. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch too.
I agree. I think it will be.
I think I'll go with my game next since I feel like it's the most important one that we're going to talk about.
It's your game.
Exactly. My game of the week is actually Cardinals versus Catholics. So otherwise known, Cardinals are like the second, like right below the Pope.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's where Notre Dame is going.
The Cardinals is going to drop that.
No, but I'm gonna go with my Louisville team. Like I've always kind of been an advocate for them as well. And even though they're the underdog here for this week, for some reason I was not expecting this much of a difference. But Notre Dame is favored basically by 68%. I thought it was going to be a much closer number the way Notre Dame has been playing the past few weeks, even if you don't count the loss for versus NIU, but even just how they've been playing. Yeah, they were played last week really well, but I'm still not convinced. As much as I like Riley Leonard, he has not been able to do anything in the passing game.
I mean, like this says, he's got 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions.
Yeah. I feel we're looking at Iowa stats quarterback type thing.
We're looking at yeah.
He's a little more mobile.
Not Iowa this year, at least.
He's more mobile and he has more passing touchdowns than Iowa had last year.
Yeah, and so with that, like, if Leonard was able to get a passing game going, I feel like I'll be more convinced that Notre Dame can actually be able to take the game. With Notre Dame, just basically kind of relying on the runnings, where they have Love rushing. Actually, I think he's a phenomenal running back, to be honest. Leonard be able to run, but the fact that Louisville was able to stop in the previous week Georgia Tech to just 98 rushing, where one of the other better defensive line, Florida, as everybody knows, Florida State they got over 200 yards on them.
Sure.
So it's just like, hey, they were able to cut them in half and be able to kind of put them away pretty pretty convincingly. So without Notre Dame's, I feel like being able to go vertical, I'm going to go with Louisville here. And so obviously that would definitely cover the spread, and they're going to pull out an upset. Overall, this is what I don't understand. Notre Dame is the favorite by 6, but yet somehow they're a 68-point favorite. The way that Louisville is going to be playing, I feel like this is going to be the game where when they win, people are going to get more attention to them. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe they're flying under the radar, or they're probably a little bit better than we actually all thought they were going to be this year, on top of what they were last year. Like, so, and the quarterback, he hasn't thrown any interceptions. Like, mind you, like he hasn't played like the greatest of teams either, but the fact that he's still pretty consistent and has been able to manage games, I'm like, what else can you actually ask for besides being all around dominant?
Sure. Well, I mean, they're just playing solid ball. And Louisville. So like Louisville is kind of the opposite of NC State. NC State was starting to see a rise last year towards the end of the season. And so that's why a lot of people, a lot of analysts, even us, we're all going, hey, NC State's probably going to have a breakout year in the ACC, potentially could be vying for an ACC championship. But we're all kind of lower on Louisville because we just assumed that they were going to just lose a lot of people. But it's, even though their production didn't return nearly as much as NC State, I believe in certain areas of the team, Louisville really hasn't lost a step. They haven't missed a step.
They got so many players from the transfer portal too.
They did, which is a gamble, is a huge gamble. But Notre Dame, I mean, they barely won last week. Like, I guess again, the score doesn't dictate really how that game went. Notre Dame looked arguably pretty pitiful last week. And
I mean, I would argue that Notre Dame is looking, I'm not going to say just as, but they're kind of on that Florida State. Like, they just look bad. The only difference is that they've won some games and not lost. So like, but when you look at what their kind of what the expectations were for them, I mean, you're bringing in Riley Leonard. You've got, you're hoping that Marcus Freeman takes a step. You're hoping you keep all your men on the field in the big plays, which they have so far. You expect a little bit more.
No, exactly. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, the arguably a better Notre Dame team played Louisville last year and lost in tremendous fashion. So
yes.
Who knows what's going to happen?
30-14. People were overlooking Louisville then, and so we'll see.
I wasn't.
That's right.
I never overlooked
that prediction. That's right.
They were my dark horse all year.
All year.
Sure. In a re-edited video, yes, they were.
It wasn't re-edited. It was just refilmed. Like, there's a very
refilmed at a later date.
Yes.
We have timestamps.
Revisionist history. It's a big thing nowadays. Anyway, so Luke, tell us a little bit about your game.
Well, it's been a pretty it's a hard game to pick, and I'll be really honest. I picked this game for some pretty selfish reasons, but I picked the Alabama-Georgia game. I think that you've got two of the top teams in the SEC. They're going against each other. I was surprised to see Bama. Like, you got it pulled up here. This is so cool having this pulled up. I don't have to jump between screens. But I was surprised to see Bama with with that big of a predictor. I thought this was more of a 50-50 game than what it's showing up here. But UGA's minus 2.5. Now, I don't know what I expect from this game. I honestly kind of think that Bama's going to pull this one out. I've not been very impressed with how Georgia's played. I think this Georgia team is Beck. I don't like the term pedestrian, but compared to what he's done in the past, this year he's not looking the same. And I know that that's hard when he's got 7 touchdowns and almost 700 yards, but I think that you're seeing some of the lacking in his receivers in here.
Yep.
So I've got Bama winning this, but selfishly, the reason that I like this game is because these are two teams that Ohio State may see in the future. These are two teams that are right up there with them. And so this is going to be kind of a fun game for me to watch and kind of see where my team stacks up against two of these teams. I think that everybody who's a fan, so Michael, Dennis, you can stay out of this part of the conversation since you're not a fan of anybody, but you do watch some of these other games, and in the back of your head, you're always going, how would my team be doing? Like how would my line be doing against this offensive line? And so that's kind of why I'm really excited to watch this, is so that I can take my mental pictures, my mental video of Ohio State, and kind of put it in there and see what's going on.
So you're gonna be pulling a stallion, it sounds like. You say taking pictures, you're gonna record. Like it just sounds like you're doing something for them.
Have you ever seen me on the sidelines? I wish you
I don't know, man. You're probably wearing a disguise.
I'm just gonna be real.
I do look very similar to Stallions. I mean, let's be real.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't seen you or Josh Payton in the same room, so
that's true.
I'm just putting it out there.
I grow a beard really quick.
Yeah, I mean, for real.
He does. I'll be really honest. He does have bigger arms than me. I'm working on it. I saw a picture of him. I did not know how jacked that dude was.
Yeah,
like, so I'm getting there. I mean, I don't know. I'm all right.
That's fair.
For 40 years old. I'm working.
No, but I agree with you. I think Alabama pulls this one out. This matchup actually originally was Georgia swinging Georgia's way on the matchup predictor back at the beginning of the year. But after the Kentucky game and after Alabama kind of blew Wisconsin out, you've seen a major shift at least from a metrics perspective. Vegas thinks that Kirby Smart's road record, which is phenomenal, is going to hold him up here. And again, Kirby Smart's an excellent coach.
He is,
but he does have problems playing at Bama. And I have heard rumors from Bama fans that Kirby Smart has been petitioning that Nick Saban is not allowed to be in the stadium during their game. And
apparently he's not going to be on the sideline. He's actually just going to be like doing like the interview, not the interviews, but just talking about the game before the pregame and stuff like that, but not going to be on the sideline.
He's going to be game day. He's at game day. So he's going to be there. But like, from what I understand, he's been petitioning the NCAA or the SEC to make sure. Now this is, I have not verified any of this. I've just heard it from some Bama fans who don't tend to exaggerate stuff. And
that's hard to find.
What Bama fans do you know?
That's hard to find.
There's a few of them that I follow on different social media platforms that actually have some legitimate clout. And all of them have been saying that it sounds like he has been petitioning that Nick Saban is not allowed in the stadium at all.
That's crazy. I mean, maybe
no.
Well, maybe it might be good for Kirby. Maybe he'll just forget his credentials and he won't be able to get in the stadium. Like they'll just say, like, sorry, Saban. I mean, even though that's kind of like the house that Saban built there.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. It was literally named after him now. It's like to not be able to.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
To not allow him would be wild. Like, oh no,
my name is on the field.
My name is right here. What do you mean?
Exactly.
But it's crazy to me that all three of us are gonna go with Bama for this game, though. To be honest,
Georgia just doesn't look like. I'm saying this, and this is like obviously like this is the least talented Georgia team that I've seen in a while, at least from the way they look.
Offensively.
Like offensively they just look anemic. They look one-dimensional. They just don't look good. Etienne is not. Yeah, I don't know. He just doesn't look good.
He has a huge game. That's where I'm kind of going on.
Sure.
We had one huge. What is it? Look, rushing yards. What is it right there? Season leaders at 157 yards rushing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, let's go back to Ashton
games. So
Right, but you'd think with as fast as he's able to go that he'd be going,
Oh no,
maybe that speed can translate on the field. But Ashton, again, going back to the best running back in the country, Ashton Jeanty, that's like one game.
Oh yeah,
so
that's a bad game.
Depending on the game, that's just a halftime stat.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like, this is when he gets taken out at the end of the at the mid third quarter.
Sure. Well, and the thing is, like, everybody's piling on about NC State now because they've looked like utter dog water since really the beginning of the year, but really since Tennessee destroyed them at the Mayo Classic, Duke's Mayo Classic. I'm surprised we're
more southern than that.
I know, right?
I want a sandwich now.
I know, right? But the thing is, this is just something that I noticed on Saturday is you had NC State playing Clemson at Clemson. NC State put up more points on Clemson's defense than Georgia did at a neutral site.
Yeah.
You would expect Clemson's defense to be more lockdown, not the other way around.
Right.
As the season progresses. This to me shows, and again, transitive property doesn't really matter in college football.
Right.
But if my transitive property checks out, it means that UGA really doesn't they have a very, very suspect offense, suspect offense that could probably be very much exposed in this game. And it might be to the benefit of Texas and Tennessee who have to play them next.
Yeah.
And so I think that Alabama does not only rallies to pull a major upset here against Georgia. It wouldn't be a big upset for Bama fans. They expecting to win, but I also think that this could potentially be the start of a snowball effect that potentially may not keep Georgia out of the playoffs, but it may at least make their positioning in the playoffs not very favorable.
Right.
So that'd be my 2 cents on the entire game. So you guys had any other thoughts?
No, I mean, I would agree with that. Georgia would basically qualify for one more quality loss after that. And after that, it'll be kind of skeptical to see if they'd be able to get into the college football playoffs.
Yeah. And I personally think if Alabama pulls the upset, I think that Georgia is going to lose against Texas because they have to go to Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I've even got them still beating Tennessee at Athens. Even though it's probably going to be a neck and neck game, they're going to beat Tennessee at Athens.
That one's looking more and more favorable for UT.
It's getting closer, but again, it's still a hostile environment. We're going to give it to Athens.
Yeah. I'm give them that piece.
Until Tennessee shows dominance against Alabama, I'm not going to go, oh, well, we've got a real good chance against Georgia. But I have seen quite a few Georgia fans state in comments of videos and things like that since the Oklahoma game, oh, Tennessee, actually, we might need to be worried about. And I'm like, oh, well, at least you're respecting your opponent. That's all I care for. Like, I don't care if you think that we're amazing or elite or any of that stuff. As long as you're respecting your opponent. That's what I
respect on the name. That's it. He's like, put some respect on my name.
And
my wife's name out your mouth.
That's right. Exactly. I was just gonna say if Tennessee does end up winning that game, then Georgia's out. They're 9-3. But I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think they're gonna be 10-2. And they're just gonna have a relatively bleh seed in the playoffs. And they'll find one national championship.
Yeah. And play Ohio State.
Yeah, probably.
So one thing I wanted to bring up, right? Because one of the things that I've loved about our show and kind of what we've done is we've always tried to give some spotlight to teams that may not get spotlight all the time.
Sure.
And there was a team last year that we were they were our team, right? They were James Madison. They were our team.
No, that was Dennis and yours team. My team was CSU.
Okay. Well, then you shut up for a little bit. I'm going to talk to Dennis. So James Madison with their victory moved into bowl projections. So they are actually now projected to be in a bowl. The other thing is did you see the score of their game? They played North Carolina. Did you watch that game at all?
I did. I was able to watch clips here and there, and it was going into the score. Like I think at halftime it was like 52 points. I think they had.
It ended 70-50.
Like
with James Madison on top. So I just wanted to bring that up. It was more of a basketball score there.
Not only that, one more thing to credit that is the fact that they literally had North Carolina's coach considering retirement at halftime. Yeah. He's like, I'm done with this. Like I've seen some clips say that, and I'm like, I don't know how 100% is true and it's taken out of context, but the fact to consider retirement in the middle of a game is wild to me.
It is.
All right. So now before we sign off or anything like that, I do have to say hello to Daryl. He said hi. So
hey, Daryl.
I'm proud of you too, son.
He doesn't look old enough in his picture to be your father.
He's not. But he's kind of
a different last name.
Yeah. It's just I mean it happens. It's Daryl. You just got to look up to him.
What did he say?
Awesome guy.
Better fans, their mascot is also less racist. Oh, yep. Then who? Who are we talking about? Vols in
Georgia. I don't know.
Georgia.
I don't know.
The Bulldogs.
We're talking about
those racist Bulldogs.
You can correct us, Daryl, if we're missing your point.
They just bark in slurs.
Or if it's just less racist in general, that's true too. It's a volunteer, which is just a Tennessean and a dog. So
a Tennessean who does volunteer.
Yeah.
Because wasn't that about the Alamo? Isn't that?
It's actually about a lot of different things. Isn't it? So Texas is one of the people.
Davy Crockett.
Hey, listen, we're gonna have
now we're gonna get a history lesson.
Here. The first time the Tennessee volunteered troops was during the War of 1812. Technically it was during the Revolutionary War, but they weren't a state yet. Then the War of 1812, Tennessee.
What year was that?
1812.
I circled 1920.
And then there was the Alamo. There was also the Mexican American War that happened as well. Tennessee asked for the Mexican American War. I think they asked for 2,000 troops to volunteer, and they had 30,000 sign up. So that's when they officially became named as the volunteer state.
Do they really like to volunteer, or do they just like the thought of killing something?
Or just running away from their family?
Like, we got to get away. This is our opportunity. Let's go.
What we do on this channel, because we've got a Mexican on it. So
that's right.
We can talk about this war. So sorry, Daryl.
On Hispanic Heritage Month.
Huh?
Hispanic Heritage.
That's right. As well. There you go. See, yeah, history fact and everything like that. But that does bring me to a phenomenal point, which is Texas, you owe everything to Tennessee, because without Tennessee's volunteers, you wouldn't exist as a state.
So and that's why they're the real UT.
That's why we're the real UT. I don't want to hear any of this nonsense about and the other thing is, I keep on hearing from Texas fans, now that they're a part of the SEC, they just think that they're the best. They're like, well, you guys don't have a Vols network. And I was like, yes, we do. We've had one since the 60s or 70s. And they're like, well, it's not like a part of ESPN. I was like, that wasn't originally a part of your criteria, but the Vol network does exist. It's just a lot smaller. So
what Michael's saying is, horns down, mother truckers.
I that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
And I didn't cuss there, people.
No, he didn't. He did not. We are a family-friendly show. We never show it, but we are a family-friendly show, and that's why Luke has been drinking a beer.
As long as your family's a little weird.
Family's a little weird. And I appreciate it, Daryl. Thank you very much. All joking aside, keep up the good work. Seriously underrated channel, high quality. Thank you, man. I do appreciate it.
Appreciate that.
And that brings us to our final point tonight, guys. Again, we do appreciate y'all joining us tonight. And if you like, share, subscribe, all that stuff, tell your friends, family to at least subscribe. and comment below. Yeah, do it. But feel free to come back next week.